Across Asia, small bean-to-bar chocolate companies have been increasingly flourishing. Many local farmers and chocolate makers have joined their efforts to foster know-how, to develop more sustainable modes of production and promote local quality cocoa. In Hong Kong, Celine and Ahmit founded Conspiracy Chocolate in 2018, sourcing their cocoa beans mainly from central Vietnam in Dak Lak. They work closely with Truong Thang and Nguyen Thong from TBROS Chocolate, who collaborates directly with family-run plantations. Today, in their kitchen lab, they're going to explain to us the whole process of chocolate making, from harvesting the pods to the making of the chocolate bars.
Hi, I'm Celine.
I'm Ahmit. We are Conspiracy Chocolates.
Welcome to the Chocolate Lab.
Our beans come from a central region in Vietnam, a region called Dak Lak, in a small farm that we visited. There are 3 types of cocoa in the world, and our is Trinitario. The other 2 are Criollo, which is from the cacao cradle in Venezuela, and Forastero, which is more common in the African region. The Trinitario cacao is actually a hybrid between the Criollo and the Forastero, but it's also known as more complex because there's different flavor traits that are developed within the cacao.
Fermentation happens in large wooden boxes lined with banana leaves and take about 7 days. In this process, everything really matters. The amount of times you mix the cacao, the temperature, the bugs in the area, all of this gives character to the chocolate, which is why we refer to it as a terroir product, not only because of the way it's grown, but a lot also the fermentation, similar to wine. After fermentation, the cacao is laid out in the sun to dry, depending on the season, either just open to the sun or in a greenhouse type of setup. The idea is also to affect it as little as possible, because anything we do to it will change the way it tastes later on. After the cacao is fermented and dried, it's stable enough to come to Hong Kong.
When we receive the cacao, the first step for us is roasting. So very similar to coffee, we actually roast our cacao in a coffee roaster. Our cacao is roasted to medium roast because we want to take out the flavors of caramel and nutty flavor. We get notes of sesame with the roaster.
The next step after roasting is cracking and winnowing. We need to isolate the cacao nib, which is inside a shell. The shell is very fragrant, very aromatic, but we don't actually use it in chocolate. So to do this, we use a cracker. Ours is actually based on a juicer. It's very antique looking. And we use it to crack the beans, really. We want to create small pieces. From there, we go on to winnowing. The machine we use blows air to remove the shells and the nib.
The next step is stone grinding, where we do 2 things to the chocolate. One is refining, or making the particles smaller, both increasing the intensity of the flavor via their increased surface area, and making the texture of the chocolate smoother. Second is conching, or slow cooking, developing the flavor of the chocolate from the heat, from the frictions of the stones over time. We do this between 2 and 4 days. And just like other bean-to-bar chocolate makers, we use volcanic rock for this, just like the Mayans and the Aztec did 5,000 years ago.
Once we're done conching the chocolate, we put it in big containers to set overnight in the fridge. And then we take out the chocolate into blocks. And we're going to age these chocolates for about a month. You can see on this block that we're cutting now, there is some fat coming up to the surface. You can see the great patterns made from the cacao butter coming to the surface. And this just indicates that it's not yet tempered. So at this stage, we're chopping these blocks into small pieces and filling the tempering machines for the next step.
In this step, we are setting the chocolate in a crystallized shape, which will melt in your mouth and not in your hand. We do this by matching the chocolate's melting point to body temperature. The chocolate blocks get chopped up and put into the tempering machine, which heats and cools the chocolate until we reach the right crystal structure. Tempering can be done in a big variety of ways. The machine is just the easiest way to do it at large volume. For different types of chocolate, we use different styles of tempering. Probably the most beautiful way would be using a marble slab. In this approach, we are spreading the chocolate to cool it down and collecting it to warm it up in order to allow it to crystallize but not create the wrong crystal shape, which would melt at a lower temperature than desired.
Once the chocolate is tempered, this is where we can really play and add flavors. So we use spices, herbs, fruits, chilies, teas, whatever we feel like really. And we're gonna mix it in, infuse, age with. There's all of these different techniques that we use to bring flavors into the chocolate. And I guess from there we will be molding. So we have molds of different shapes, different weights, and this is really depending on what we want to achieve. And molding is really pouring into the mold, make sure the chocolate goes into the shape, and setting it into the fridge for the final shape.